It never crosses their minds that their position in charge of news organizations carries with it a responsibility to protect and preserve the values of real journalism. Values of real journalism. Could it be that we have lost our way because we have lost sight of what we are about and how we do it? In that spirit, I was recently asked by the sponsors of a Aspen seminar on journalism if I had guidelines I used in my own practice of journalism, and if so, would I mind sharing them? Well, here, in part, is what I sent them. Do nothing I cannot defend. Cover, write, and present every story with the care I would want if the story were about me. Assume there is at least one other side or version to every story. Assume the viewer is as smart and as caring and as good a person as I am. Assume the same about all the people I report about all people on whom I report. I wanted to say that grammatically correct. Assume personal lives are a private matter until a legitimate turn in the story absolutely mandates otherwise. Carefully separate opinion and analysis from straight news stories and clearly label everything. Do not use anonymous sources or blind quotes except on rare and monumental occasions. No one should ever be allowed to attack another anonymously and never will be on our program. Finally, I am not in the entertainment business. End of my sermon, end of my viewing with alarm. People will now pass among you with, never mind, you know how that goes. Now my advice for you all, for the class of 1998. First, do not mistake what's happening here today. The fact that you are getting a diploma from one of America's finest institutions of higher learning does not mean you are educated. Some of the dumbest people I know went to some of the finest institutions of higher learning in this country. And they took their diploma. Do I speak the truth? Yes. They took their diploma in their hot little hand, and they pronounced themselves educated, and they proceeded to never read another book or entertain another fresh idea, and most tragically for their society and for their country, never again paid attention to much of anything other than themselves, to much of anything that was happening around them or to others. Please, oh please do not do that. Leave here today caring about your own mind and also caring about your neighborhood and your government and your world. I believe, and I believe passionately, that there is no problem that we, the most civilized and progressive and democratic and wild and wonderful nation in the world, cannot solve. I also believe passionately that it is absolutely absurd to think that they are going to be solved without you and me and everyone being involved in the solutions. And for you and me, and for more than anyone else, there is a special absurdity to it, because we really are the privileged ones. We are the fortunate ones. We are the ones who did get the great educations. We are the ones who got the encouragement and the help from great teachers, from great parents, great friends, great neighbors, great gods. We're the cream of our society. We must show it by rising to the top and staying there. And I mean the top of the mountain of leadership and concern and action. And for people like us, it's not an option. It's an obligation. And it's not just an obligation to others, but to ourselves for our own sakes and for our own sense of ourselves. This is not a political philosophy I'm talking about. It's a state of mind. And I urge all of you in the class of 1998 to accept it, adopt it, and shout it this afternoon in this great place and in all other great places you go from this day forward. But after you've shouted it a while, I would then urge you to hold down the shouting, the noise. Be civil, be gentle, be fair. One of the most serious losses we as a society have suffered in recent years, in my opinion, is that of civil discourse. There's a meanness of communication alive in the land right now. I see it in the mail we get up to our program, and I hear it on the radio, and I read it in the newspapers and the magazines, and I'm sure you all do too. The current controversies concerning the President of the United States have heightened that meanness beyond anything I have ever seen in my 40 years of journalism. It does not have to be that way. We are, in fact, civilized people. We can disagree in a civilized manner. We can even acknowledge the right of others to disagree with us. We can even acknowledge the possibility that sometimes, some very rare times, we might even be wrong. And strange as it may seem, we might sometimes learn more from listening than from talking, and always we could learn more from talking than from shouting. My second piece of advice is borrowed. Robinson Davies, the late great Canadian writer, said in a commencement address in 1992, he said, "Get yourself a good anthology of poetry and keep it by your bed. Read a little before you go to sleep. Read a little if you wake up before the alarm goes off. Read a little if you wake up in the middle of the night. When you are idle during the day, on public transport, or at a committee meeting, let your mind dwell on what you have read. One book will last you a long time. Indeed, it may last you a lifetime. Do not skim, do not read quickly, any more than you would play a piece of music absurdly fast on your hi-fi, simply to get it over with. Read, listen to, and savor the words and the sense." I would say amen to that, and I would add, get yourself a good novel every once in a while to read. Read it slowly. Let it take you away from where you are. Let your soul be captured by the imagination of a writer. Let your heart be massaged by words. I say that with some prejudice, of course. My wife, Kate, and I are both writers of novels. And finally, let me pass on something that comes in the form of the ultimate recycled quote. And the president of the Student Association just spoke of it herself a moment ago. It's what a fictional lieutenant governor of Oklahoma said at a commencement speech to a fictional graduating class at a fictional state college in Oklahoma. He said, "As you search for your place in life, I hereby advise you to take risks. Be willing to put your mind and your spirit, your time and your energy, your stomach and your emotions on the line. To search for a safe place is to search for an end to a rainbow that you will hate once you find it. Take charge of your own life. Create your own risks by setting your own standards and then satisfying your own standards." Still quoting. Congratulations to you all. It is unlikely that any of you will have occasion to remember either me or my commencement address. I don't blame you, but if by chance something does linger, I hope it's just that there was a guy up there who kept saying, "Risk, risk. The way to happiness is to risk it, end quote. It's the ultimate recycled quote because it's from a novel published in 1990 called The Sooner Spy. I wrote that novel. And I stole those lines verbatim from a real commencement speech I made myself in 1984 to my oldest daughter's college graduating class. So it's a quote of a fictional quote that began as a real quote, and thus, as I say, the ultimate recycled quote. I mean it as much today as the day I said it in 1984. My fictional lieutenant governor of Oklahoma told me to tell you he feels the same way too. And he joins me in congratulating all of you, the members of the class of 1998. And I would urge you, as you go about your lives, to remember what I said at the very beginning. Wherever you go, don't forget your baggage, please. Thank you very much.